Hello! Welcome to Erol on targeted individuals. What is a targeted individual? The answer is harassed and harassed and harassed until they're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. If you don't know what post-traumatic stress disorder is, go and watch Erol on PTSD. You're welcome, you cheeky little cunt. And so, basically, once you know what PTSD is, once this person has got post-traumatic stress disorder, they continue to harass the targeted individual again and again until they're suffering from suicidal ideation, thinking about killing themselves to escape what you don't know exists because it hides in plain view. So this video is for anyone who's a targeted individual so they don't commit sideways. Alright, we need you, right? The more people who come forward, the better. However, there's ways you don't come forward, and I'll be exposing that as well. So, if you're a targeted individual, I'll give you one example of a targeted individual. There are other bits and bobs that vary from targeted individual, TI, to another one. However, I'll give you the best one I can put together, right? And basically, you'll know all about it if it's happening to you. It's called gang stalking, right? Gang stalking, where a circumference around the targeted individual is built up over time of people who are prepared to stalk people for money. And you need to know that there's a secret society that the late great JFK opined about in his last speech, unsurprisingly, 1 week before he was murdered, assassinated. And so that speech was all about exposing that there's a secret society that's above the presidency. He wanted the presidency to be above the secret society. However, they clearly didn't. So they blew his head off in broad daylight, the secret society, and bumped off everybody who was filming it, lining the roads, you know. And so they're organised evil, and they're now connected with the internet, mobile phones, laptops, right? They're all connected. They're Satan worshippers, right? They're now at the 15% mark of your entire culture. You can't survive them being any greater a number because they feed on the host. And without the host, what's left? A bunch of weeping, pity play peddling scumbags who want you to come to their pity party. Yeah? So, to conclude, how does gang stalking manifest itself? Well, how can a group of people jabbering shite around you cause you to commit suicide? The answer is because it's specific and it's relentless and it's meant to anger you or hurt you, exhaust you emotionally, right? And so, for example, I'm going to give you the above top secret example. When you know this, when this is part of your psychology, when you finally realise this is the truth, you'll be miles ahead of your contemporaries in your knowledge of top secrets. You're welcome, as I said, you're welcome, little bastard. And so, let me say now, have you heard of a transmitter chip? It doesn't actually make a sound. However, loads of them now are in cats and dogs. So if your cat or dog goes runabout, then you can type into your computer and you can get access to where they are on their GPS setting on their inbuilt chip. And also you can find out when you discover the creature, you can scan it and then it comes up with the name of the owner and the address and the phone number. Pardon me. No, don't. So the thing is, basically, there's now a more advanced version of the transmitter chip. So they're just giving them out like sweeties, you know, to cats and dogs. However, there's ones that they're injecting into humans or putting into their food so they don't know they're ingesting a tracker chip. Which, if you type it into Google, don't take my word for it, type into Google transmitter chip gang stalking and you'll find tens of thousands of people who are being targeted by members of their government, members of the police force, and degenerate members of their family and friends as a sport. Yeah, it's no use for anything else. It used to be something that they tested in the MK Ultra program to see if it could work against rogues in a country opposed to them. Now it's just left in the hands of babes. You know, people who don't develop beyond 3 to 5 years of age emotionally, who are what you would call sociopaths and psychopaths and megalomaniacs, who are the worst of all. And so, say for example you've ingested a transmitter chip, right? And you don't know it. It is absorbed into your body's tissue and broadcasts from wherever it's placed, broadcasts anything in its path. And if you think about your brain, right? Your brain and your eyeballs are not the same. They're separate entities, and they're only connected with a string called the optical nerve. And so it broadcasts what's going along those strings, and the receiver, who's some ugly, disgusting, verminous piece of shit, gets this message from the RFID chip. You can call it that as well. And they can see what you see on their computer screen. It can see through because of your eyes, because of this chip broadcasting what's in its path within a small radius. And so basically that's the hardest part to believe, and they're keeping it a secret because they want to be in one and up one in this imaginary pecking order. But they really are just the scum of the earth, and there's a slick all the way to hell, an oil slick, you know, with these degenerate bone balls full of shit, all wanting to top each other and essentially top you. So they do it for fun, they do it for sexual pleasure, they do it out of boredom, they do it for money because they can gamble with what the outcome's going to be. And to be susceptible to it, you must first start with being, let me see now, suggestive, auto-suggestion. I'll say it again. Auto-suggestive. In other words, when people walk past you and they're saying something to one another, you'll eavesdrop, and you shouldn't, because that's one of the key ways they enter your psychology and try to abuse you. So if you imagine sitting on a bench and there's a train pulls up at the train station, 100 people could get off that, 200 people could get off that, and 15% of them will be Satan worshippers who are connected with their mobile phones for all they're worth to the secret society. And so when they get off, say you're going to a place called Motherwell, right? And which I've done many's the time, and they'll get off it no matter where it's from and say Motherwell, is your Motherwell, to each other. And you think, and then basically what you hope isn't the case is that they've started to gang stalk your mother. Say you've not seen your mother for a week or two or longer, then it's obvious to think, well, if they're bold enough to target you in plain view with an organised gang of stalkers, it's no great leap for them to organise their stalking of your mother. So you'll hear an abundance of that if you eavesdrop and are auto-suggestive, and they'll walk past you and interfere with whatever you're doing. Now, also on top of this, for example, say you've got a dog and your dog passes away, but what do you think it's passed away? You've tested for its GPS tracking system, it's gone. Basically, you'll start hearing the name of your dog being bandied about. Aye, Benji, Benji, somebody will say. And another way that they do it, even when they're alone, they'll say this thing out, they'll say Benji, Motherwell, right? And they're not talking to anybody, they're not with anybody. And it's just a paragraph that they're told about you, and then a list of buzzwords. That's all they get in the majority of cases. Some of them don't even want payment, they just want to move up this pecking order. And so basically you will have somebody who's just recently learned about you, predominantly, and that paragraph will paint you as a bad person who deserves to be abused in that one paragraph, because you're not a Satan worshipper. That makes it worse. You definitely deserve to be abused. And so, to conclude, the list of buzzwords will have anything that's happened recently, or anything that's got to you, and has hurt you, or angered you, and you've let off steam. And don't forget, the subhuman piece of shit is watching all this remotely to see if it works. And they keep on top of it. And it's relentless. The ambition is to have an 1,000-yard radius of the 15 percenters that surround you at all times and basically know when to duck. And to conclude, they will be sent their messages and their cash. They're more interested in cash and pecking order than they are in anything to do with you. You're just an incidental target, just a target. They dehumanise you. And so, you'll have this list of buzzwords adding up, and it'll be, you know, say your late Aunt Maud, say she passed away, then you're going to hear people saying, I like the modern way you've worded that. You know, they'll say, another person might walk past and say, she's a beautiful model, right? And at first you think, surely not. Surely these people aren't told to say Maud because my Aunt Maud has passed away, my sainted aunt. But they are. And also, if you're an eavesdropper, you'll mistakenly think that someone who's just coincidentally using the word modern, you maybe think they're in on it as well. So it multiplies the number from 15% to 30 or 50 or 60 until you're on the verge of psychosis, because you're imagining things when there's a very real 15%, but there's also a very not 15% you can stick on top of that, or more, and it's harrowing. And they'll commit crimes against you. As I've said, they'll steal your dog and then make you think that it's been killed, and then a few weeks later they'll return your dog to you with a different chip inside it. And so that's to let you know you've got a chip inside you and it can be taken out or put back in. And the luckiest ones are the ones who swallow it, and then it passes through the system and out the other end. Hold on, my director's in here with me. I always have had Fly as a director. Then I moved to the other camera where it can't be seen. I'm not trying to hide your light there, Mr. Spielberg. And so, the point is, yeah, that there's a lot of it about. And what I'd like is for you not to commit suicide, please. To not strain yourself and the nerves in your prefrontal cortex from constantly being triggered by the latest wave of shite, right? And remember, you're not alone. If you type in that phrase, transmitter chip gang stalking, you'll even find electronic devices that block your broadcasts and have a place where you can just chill out and relax. And that's the best way to do it. Try and engineer your life so that you don't go out anymore, right? And you might think that's a bit drastic. However, it's only for about 3 months, right? Engineer your life so you're in the house, getting home deliveries from the supermarket, anything that means you don't have to go out, because outside they'll be playing on you, targeting you. And these people are terminally bored because they're hollow and they're void of empathy or the meaning of life itself, compassion, you know. And their type of temporary, fleeting glee isn't worth it, really. And so they move on to somebody else. You're taken out of the equation. The only time you'll be in the equation is when you answer the door to the delivery guy and he passes on his code, you know. And, you know, it'll be anything, you know. Like, oh, here's your modern type of crisps. Oh, that's one. When you're walking around the supermarket, that's when you'll be mobbed as though you're infamous. And basically what it will be is people will start nodding at the basket they're carrying or nodding at the trolley they're pushing. And you have to look then if you're auto-suggestive and eavesdropping, and you look and the person has chosen a bag of crisps called Millions, which is to offend you. And you might think, how can that be offensive? The answer is, they've got millions of disposable income, right? Especially if it's from the state, funding at the FBI, MI5, It doesn't matter. They've got top level security clearance, which allows them enough money to target someone until they die from suicide or basically from an overdose. Same thing, suicide.